'Twas 3 nights before Christmas and all through the house. Apartment, because houses are too expensive right now. There was screaming and shouting, but not at a mouse. It was a giant rat that had just had to be seen, and his 17 siblings, and they all just beamed. For they had filled their bellies with pork and fat, and told the rest of us to suck on that. But my anus is tired, and has been stretched to the wall, and it's time for Mitch McConnell and his friends to fall. I don't know about you, my fellow Republicans, but I just can't do this anymore. I have never been anally penetrated by a family member or close friend, but I can only imagine that it feels just as I felt when Mitch McConnell and his cronies voted yes on that $1.7 trillion boondoggle. And honestly, I was depressed and didn't even go to work the next day because you're supposed to be Republican, supposed to be conservative. We're in an inflationary time because you're flooding the market with money. You're flooding the economy with cash. And instead of just not doing that, because you've already raised the interest rates, so we as individuals, we as citizens, don't spend that much cash. But then you just threw $1.7 trillion on the problem. I voted for Republicans, I guess, because their policies were more in line with my beliefs than those of the Democrats. And at first, I thought that my vote would just be enough. I'll just vote Republican. I did my part. I'm go to sleep. But after what was done to Donald Trump in 2020, at that point, I believed that I needed to be more active. I started calling people on the phone, doorbelling, donating money in my local legislative district, etc. However, Mitch McConnell and his 17 cohorts convinced me that that was just a waste of time. I was violated by this same cabal of Republicans just last year when they voted yes on an infrastructure package where less than 10% was for actual infrastructure. I got to tell you, my ass can't take this anymore. The Republicans don't want power because then they would have to prove that their policies work. It's much easier. And honestly, think about it. Isn't it easier to sit back and criticize your manager, your supervisor, the owner of the company, than it would be for you to take their position and show whether or not your policies, your procedures work better than theirs? It's easier to be a grifter. It's easier for them to be a grifter on the losing side with unproven policies, and then having that ready scapegoat in the Democrats, who have clearly indicated that they want to destroy the American way of life for the middle class and below. People with no power. Right now, we, the middle class and below, and people with no power, have no one to turn to for relief. The Democrats, you vote for them, that's shit. You're just voting to, you're voting to commit suicide. And you vote for the Republicans and they tell you they're your friend, but there are enough of them within the party that will see to your demise. So my fellow Republicans, I have a question for you. If the Republicans are content to let Democrats destroy our way of living without putting up any kind of fight because these certain Republicans are getting rich too, then just like Joe Biden did with the oil and gas industry, let's turn off their spigot. If there's nothing we can do, no one we can turn to in order to provide us with protection from the impending doom, then let us take down those who pretended to be our protectors so they can take a fall with us. And there'd be some good people that go down as well. Say Tim Scott, Rand Paul. But look, what I'm doing right now is I'm calling on the GOP, the state GOP, in each of the states where a Republican senator voted yes on this $1 trillion piece of trash to make a motion and take a vote to stop recognizing each of these 18 individuals as members of the GOP. Their priorities clearly lie elsewhere, instead of with the prosperity of their constituents. Now, Mitch McConnell even had the nerve, to say that this $1.7 trillion government spending bill fulfilled all of the party's priorities because of the increase in defense spending. And McConnell even said Russia's defeat is, quote, the number one priority for the United States right now, according to most Republicans. Now, I don't know what kind of weed he's smoking, but I don't need it because I don't smoke weed, but no. If that was the number one priority of the Republican Party, then he would have had more than 18 votes. 3 Republicans didn't vote. That left 47. And then you got 18. So that meant there were 29 Republican senators who did not agree with you. And if therefore you look at the constituents associated with the members, and therefore you're full of shit. Hold on. Because I'm a Republican, and my number one concern is inflation. And my number 2 concern is the border. And they flip-flop. Because you've had approximately 5 million plus individuals entering this country that should not have. Our southern border is open. And what that's going to do is drive up the cost of health care. Briefly, because I'll just put to you like this, because California is a sanctuary state. My relative had brain cancer. Hopefully it doesn't come back. But they were going to put him off for 4 to 5 months because they couldn't see him. They couldn't see him. They didn't say it was because of immigration, but the hospitals are overwhelmed. They're firing people because they wouldn't get vaccinated, and then you got a bunch of immigrants coming into a sanctuary state. When I say immigrant, you know what kind I mean. Drives up the cost of health care and the availability of health care. Drives up crime as more people will die from fentanyl overdoses. The reason you have record numbers of fentanyl being recovered and kept, recovered or confiscated at the border is because there are more drug mules bringing that over. So how much of that escapes? And then your children. If you have children at school, just think of how less intelligent they're going to be. This mass migration, this open border is going to dumb down our children. It's this influx of children who don't speak English into a classroom with your child, your citizen child, means that your child is not going to reach their full potential academically because the teacher's going to have to slow it down, because the teacher's going to have to deal with 50 children in a class instead of 30. If you have money to afford a private school, then yeah, you can escape that, but that just makes matters worse for the lower middle class even, and the poor. You have a greater percentage of black and individuals of color that are poor, so they're going to suffer the most. There was money allocated to Customs and Border Protection, but that was money that it had a clause in there. It said it cannot be used to keep people out of the country. It can be used to process people. So we can hire more people to process individuals who shouldn't be coming. Well, I won't say that. In concluding, I say this to every Republican voter in the United States of America. If the state GOPs do not make a motion to stop recognizing these traitors, then we should not show up to the polls to vote for Senate or House members. Certain members screw us, so screw them back. And yes, it's going to hurt members like Tim Scott. It's going to hurt members like Rand Paul. But we just can't afford this any longer. Because if we're going to lose, if they are not going to protect us, then F them. I love Rand Paul, but not as much as Ron DeSantis. But I really do, I got much love for you, Rand. And I like Tim Scott. But if they cannot get their colleagues to form a united front against the Democrat assault against the middle and lower class, then let the party die, because they're not doing anything for us anyway. Now, I put links in the description box so you can read Mitch McConnell's comments, see who voted for the infrastructure bill, who voted for the spending bill, and compare the names on the list, as well as my Twitter account. Because every day, beginning January 1st of 2023, I'm going to post at least one wasteful item that should have been cut from the spending bill. An item that was unnecessary to the function of our government. For while we are all told to cut back on our discretionary spending, hell, I should have said that not only told, we're forced to because of increased interest rates. While this is happening, our government continues wasteful spending because it's our money that they are spending, which they will collect with increased tax enforcement. Finally, locally, on a state level, I believe that you should still support your Republican candidates. They can, if in a majority, keep you and your family safe. On a national level, if these state GOPs do not cease recognizing these traitors, then let them all fall. Let there not be one single Republican senator, not one single Republican member of the House of Representatives. Fuck them. Perhaps the prospect of not having a Republican Party at all will serve as a catalyst to spur these representatives into taking actions they never would have considered before. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you don't have my vote. I'm out.